Today, the Justice Department announced indictments against 12 Russian intelligence agents.
The Russians are accused of engaging in a sustained effort to hack into computer networks connected to Democrats and presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. Investigators say they also accessed and stole the personal information of thousands of American voters.
Russian GRU officers hacked the website of a state election board and stole information about 500,000 voters. They also hacked into computers of a company that supplied software used to verify voter registration information. They targeted state and local officials responsible for administering elections, and they sent spear phishing emails to people involved in administering elections, including attaching malicious software.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was ousted as chair of the Democratic National Committee prior to the election, issued a statement saying in part, quote, "I am pleased that the Justice Department is following the facts wherever they may lead, despite Donald Trump's dangerous distortions and his refusal to acknowledge the conclusions reached by the American intelligence community."
And in that indictment today filed by the special counsel Robert Mueller, an allegation with possible ties to South Florida. On page 15 of the indictment, it says, quote, "On or about August 15, 2016, the conspirators posing as Guccifer 2.0 received a request for stolen documents from a candidate for the U.S. Congress. The conspirators responded using the Guccifer 2.0 persona and sent the candidate stolen documents related to that candidate's opponents." And according to McClatchy newspapers, that same day, stolen documents from 5 congressional campaigns of 7 Democratic candidates in Florida were released to the public by hackers. They included damaging information on former Miami Representative Joe Garcia and State Senator Annette Taddeo, who were running in a primary to unseat Republican Carlos Curbelo in District 26. We reached out to Curbelo for his response to the indictment. He said he supports the investigation and calls for the Justice Department to release the name of the candidate. Former candidate Joe Garcia said he supports the Mueller probe and was not involved with anything regarding Guccifer 2.0. State Senator Annette Taddeo released this statement on Twitter, calling for better security to protect our electoral system. Joining us now is David Weinstein, partner at Hinshaw and Culbertson. He is also a former assistant U.S. attorney. Good to see you, as always. And obviously, the Justice Department knows who this congressional candidate is. We don't. But should they release this candidate's name, as Congressman Curbelo has requested? And what are the ramifications for this person who may have reached out seeking damaging information?
I'll answer the questions backwards and first. The ramifications are, if they can prove that this person who reached out, who was a congressional candidate, was actively colluding and was conspiring with these 12 individuals, then in all likelihood the grand jury is going to bring charges against that individual. But that would have to show his intent and what the requests were. As for releasing the name, that's not the way the system works. These are allegations, and people who are uncharged aren't named, and people who might be charged aren't named until the grand jury has determined there's enough information to bring charges against them. The fact that he's not named and wants to be named, it's thinking on his behalf because he wants to either clear himself or show he's not the person named. And if he's named, then he wants to start his campaign towards clearing his name. But that's not the way the system works. You don't put names of people in an indictment until you have sufficient proof for the grand jury to return a true bill.
So speaking of people who are being named, the 12 Russians who are named in the indictment, they're not going to be extradited to the United States to face charges. So what is the message? What is the purpose of putting this indictment forward?
The message and the purpose is showing the American people that a special counsel was appointed and he was given a task. Investigate what was going on. Did something happen during our last presidential election? And what he has found out, and the people working for him have found out, is that yes, something happened. And the fact that we can't get these people brought here because of the extradition treaty between Russia and the United States doesn't mean that this grand jury didn't find that, in fact, somebody was messing around with the election that took place. And those people are the people who are named here. Now, if they choose to travel somewhere that they're not protected by their government and they are picked up and brought here, then they'll stand trial.
You know, President Trump obviously has called the Russia investigation a witch hunt. One of his attorneys, Rudy Giuliani, after today's news, tweeted this out. He said, "The indictments Rod Rosenstein announced are good news for all Americans. The Russians are nailed. No Americans are involved. Time for Mueller to end this pursuit of the president and say President Trump is completely innocent." But then there is that Trump Tower meeting that was held, the Don Jr. email, and this.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
Actually here in Doral at his golf course, which is just down the street, and the New York Times reports that on the same day that the president requested that Russia look for those emails, that was the first time that these Russians who were indicted actually tried to break into Hillary Clinton's servers. So what is the proper White House response to all of this? And can President Trump continue to call this a witch hunt when there have been so many indictments handed?
He can call this whatever he wants. His lawyers can go out and have wishful thinking on their part. But this does not signal the end. This signals more yet to come. It's really wishful thinking on Giuliani's part here. You heard what the president said. Somebody was listening, and as the grand jury heard, the very next day, these people who were hacking into the records here of the American public found this information. You have to also look at the words that Rod Rosenstein said. He said no Americans were named in this indictment, and he's correct. No Americans were named in this indictment. That doesn't mean that the special counsel isn't still looking to see whether or not there are other Americans involved. And if, in fact, there are other Americans who are involved in this, other than the people who have already previously been indicted, then that grand jury is going to hear more evidence, and they're going to return another true bill, and we'll be having a conversation about an American who helped to assist these people manipulate our system.
What about the timing of this? This is obviously days before President Trump is set to meet with Vladimir Putin. It's kind of an unavoidable topic now, right?
Well, for starters, Rod Rosenstein informed the president that this was coming before he left, which is what the Attorney General's office should be doing with the leader of our country. So he knew this was coming. In terms of scheduling this, planning this, it's not as if Mueller has a calendar of people's trips on his wall. He's making presentations to the grand jury. The grand jury has their own schedule, and he reached a point in his presentation where he was prepared to give them this indictment as a suggested indictment, and if they felt that the time was right now, they felt the time was right now. There's no timetable that he has. He didn't do it intentionally. He didn't release his information now. That's how the system operates, and that's when this indictment came out. On the other end of it, if this had happened weeks afterwards, there would have been allegations that, oh my God, they held it back, so it would have interfered with this. He can't win either way.
David Weinstein, always good to see you and pick your brain. Thanks so much for coming in.
You're welcome. Always a pleasure.
Good to see you, and we'll be right back.